Hello, this is John Mark Gray, and today we are going to confront a deeply unsettling, yet critically important, truth about the current trajectory of the United States. We'll delve into the alarming state of the American economic and political system, dissecting the profound dysfunction that threatens its future and global standing. This isn't merely a critique, it's a call to profound introspection, backed by observable trends and data. To be perfectly blunt, America appears to be operating under the weight of a highly dysfunctional government, increasingly subsidized by a political system that actively thwarts progress. This system has fostered an out-of-control bureaucracy that is not only demonstrably incompetent, but also actively generates new systemic problems year after year. For the past 7 decades, at an ever-accelerating pace, we've witnessed a methodical and self-defeating erosion of foundational democratic principles, darkening the very beacon that America once sought to be in the world. The long-term consequences are stark. The overall quality of life for many Americans has been on a measurable decline for at least 7 consecutive decades. More broadly, the United States is being undeniably outpaced on the global competitive stage by nations like Australia, China, Germany, and South Korea. America is losing significant market share and competitive dominance across numerous critical sectors, and this erosion is accelerating within an increasingly globalized and interconnected world. This decline is all the more concerning when we consider America's historical advantage. Following World War II, the United States enjoyed an unprecedented position of economic and political hegemony. Its industrial base was intact, its infrastructure largely undamaged, and its scientific and technological prowess unrivaled. This head start, however, was not fully leveraged to sustain long-term competitive advantage. Instead, a combination of factors, including increasingly misaligned domestic policies, the profound geopolitical distractions of the Cold War, and a gradual complacency, allowed other nations to catch up and, in many areas, pull ahead. In 30 years, if current trends persist, the United States risks finding itself on the outside looking in, with diminished influence across crucial global markets. Imagine industries like automobiles, electronics, agriculture, engineering, architecture, advanced manufacturing, shipping, cutting-edge technology, and even the entertainment industry, once American strongholds, largely dominated by foreign entities. This isn't a dystopian fantasy. It's the logical conclusion of current trajectories. Evidence of economic erosion and diminished competitiveness. Let's examine some specific areas. 1. Manufacturing decline. The U.S. share of global manufacturing output has been in a long-term decline. While the U.S. remains a major manufacturing power, its percentage of global output has significantly decreased from its post-World War II peak. According to data from the World Bank, China's share of global manufacturing value added surged from around 8% in 2004 to over 28% by 2018, while the U.S. share, though still substantial, hovered around 16 to 17% during the same period. The narrative of industrial hollowing out, particularly in sectors like steel and textiles, is well documented, costing millions of jobs and impacting communities. 2. Trade deficits. Persistent trade deficits, particularly with countries like China, indicate a structural imbalance where the U.S. imports significantly more goods and services than it exports. In 2023, the U.S. trade deficit in goods and services reached approximately $935 billion, U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis, reflecting a reliance on foreign production and a weakening domestic industrial base. This isn't just about consumer choice. It reflects a competitive disadvantage in producing certain goods efficiently and at scale. 3. Infrastructure lag. A nation's infrastructure is its economic backbone. The American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, has consistently given U.S. infrastructure a C- grade, estimating trillions of dollars needed for repairs and upgrades. In contrast, countries like Germany and South Korea have invested heavily in modernizing their infrastructure, creating efficient logistical networks that boost their industries. The World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Report has often ranked the U.S. behind many developed nations in infrastructure quality. 4. Innovation and R&D investment. While the U.S. remains an innovation leader, other nations are closing the gap, driven by strategic national investments. For instance, South Korea consistently ranks among the top countries globally in R&D expenditure as a percentage of GDP, often exceeding 4.5%, with a strong focus on high-tech sectors like semiconductors and AI. China's R&D spending has also dramatically increased, now accounting for over 2.5% of its GDP, with aggressive targets in emerging technologies. While the U.S. has a strong private sector R&D, public investment has fluctuated, impacting long-term foundational research. 5. Semiconductor manufacturing. The U.S. share of global semiconductor manufacturing capacity has fallen from 37% in 1990 to approximately 12% today, Semiconductor Industry Association. This critical industry, vital for everything from defense to consumer electronics, is now heavily concentrated in East Asia, creating significant supply chain vulnerabilities and economic dependencies. This decline is a direct result of differing industrial policies and investment strategies over decades. This bleak economic and political climate arises partly because many of our competitors operate with more agile and intelligently designed business models, better adapted to the fluid global environment. Look at the strategic business models employed by nations like China and South Korea. Their governments are not merely passive regulators. They actively support and champion key industries, providing robust frameworks, targeted investments, and strategic guidance to enable their companies to compete aggressively and, in many cases, dominate global markets. China's Made in China 2025 initiative, for instance, explicitly aims for global dominance in 10 high-tech sectors, leveraging state-backed enterprises and massive government subsidies. South Korea's chaebol system, e.g., Samsung, LG, Hyundai, while having its own complexities, demonstrates how powerful state-corporate collaboration can be in developing national champions that compete fiercely on the world stage. Meanwhile, American businesses often struggle to secure even basic private loans, particularly smaller and medium-sized enterprises, highlighting a capital allocation problem exacerbated by financialization and short-term profit motives. The American government, in many respects, has been asleep at the wheel when it comes to fostering genuine, organic business growth and maintaining competitive edges. This inaction is particularly evident over the last 30 years, marked by economic policies often driven by funny money, e.g., excessive quantitative easing, debt-fueled growth, rather than sustainable, productive investment. The erosion of democratic engagement and the rise of misinformation. This economic and political malaise is inextricably linked to a broader societal issue. A populace increasingly distracted, polarized, and, frankly, disengaged from substantive civic discourse. Americans are too busy fighting amongst themselves, often over manufactured grievances, to realize the profound geopolitical shifts occurring around them. The notion that informed citizens are the bedrock of democracy feels increasingly anachronistic. We have a vast number of uninformed voters making decisions that often appear doltishly stupid, reducing elections to giant popularity contests and referendums on superficial personalities, rather than deep engagement with policies and principles. Data supports this concern. 1. Low civic literacy. Numerous surveys, such as those conducted by the Annenberg Public Policy Center, consistently reveal alarmingly low levels of basic civic knowledge among American adults. For example, in 2022, only 47% of U.S. adults could name all 3 branches of government. How can citizens make informed decisions if they lack foundational understanding of their own system? 2. Voter turnout discrepancy. While presidential election turnout can be relatively high, e.g., 66.8% in 2020, it often lags behind many other developed democracies. More critically, turnout for local and midterm elections, where much of the governing actually happens, is significantly lower, e.g., 50.4% in 2022 midterms, U.S. election project, indicating a selective engagement that misses crucial elements of democratic participation. 3. Political polarization. Research from the Pew Research Center consistently demonstrates an ever-widening partisan divide, not just on policy issues, but in fundamental values and trust in institutions. This polarization makes reasoned debate difficult, as each side becomes entrenched in its own narrative, often viewing the other with suspicion and animosity. The news media, rather than acting as a bulwark against ignorance, has, in many cases, become part of the problem. Driven by profit motives, algorithms, and the demands of the 24/7 news cycle, much of it has devolved into partisan echo chambers, acting less as objective reporters and more as propaganda machines for their respective political cults. This creates a fragmented reality where facts are disputed and an objective understanding of complex issues becomes almost impossible. Studies by organizations like the Knight Foundation and Gallup consistently show declining public trust in media institutions, further exacerbating the problem of an informed citizenry. The modern American political system has, indeed, spawned participants who act more like cult members than thoughtful citizens. This is the precipice we face: a voting public largely uninformed, uncritical, and engaging in perpetual talking past each other rather than genuine dialogue. This superficial engagement misses the entire point of patriotic political participation, which should be rooted in shared civic responsibility and a collective commitment to the nation's well-being. It is high time for Americans to awaken from this collective political slumber. The global landscape is shifting dramatically, and the United States risks being left behind at an alarming rate. This transformation begins with the American citizenry becoming genuinely informed voters. Individuals who understand the nuances of the issues, critically evaluate information, and transcend the simplistic Team Republican versus Team Democrat, or us versus them mentality. Getting out the vote campaigns are ultimately futile if the majority of voters lack a real understanding of the complex issues at stake. True patriotic participation demands a profound re-engagement with civic duty, critical thinking, and a shared commitment to rebuilding the foundations of a truly functional and competitive America.